Welcome back, everyone. I am the Depressed Eeyore, and this is Arkham Horror, the card game. It's been a busy couple of weeks, both work and game related. Been having some rough times getting the next campaign started. I've been focusing on trying to play all the new characters from the Drowned City. Last time we did Agatha, and she almost made it to the end. This time around, I'm trying to work with Marion. And unfortunately, this is my third attempt to try to make Marion work. I tried to make her work in Path of Carcosa with Rita, but that did not work. That was a bad decision on my part. And then I tried to do a different deck with Marion and had her team up with a big money Jenny Barnes. And I've never done big money. And every time I try something like a new archetype, I seem to always get the worst possible luck when trying it out, as if trying to stop me from ever attempting it ever again. My first scenario ended up having about 7 or 8 auto-fails, which kind of kills the tempo when I didn't have much tempo to begin with. So this will be my third attempt to try to get Marion to work. With that, we're going to be trying Cyclopean Foundations, a fan-created campaign done by TheBeard, who is the same one that has done Half-Life, Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, and all sorts of other ones. I have done a full playthrough of Cyclopean Foundations on my own in the past. It's been a long time, though, but I did it with Patrice and Winifred. And that one was messy, because both characters were characters that required certain assets to be out in order for them to actually do anything. But I managed to make it work, so here's my hope of making it work with this team. So, first we'll go ahead and go over the introduction. Impossible angles in unearthly stone. For instead of its describing any definite structure or building, he dwells only on broad impressions of vast angles and stone surfaces too great to belong to anything right or proper for this earth, and impious with horrible images and hieroglyphs. I mention his talk about angles because it suggests something Wilcox had told me of his awful dreams. He had said that the geometry of the dream place he saw was abnormal, non-Euclidean, and loathsomely redolent of spheres and dimensions apart from ours. So the main new rules, usually TheBeard actually uses a lot of the other, I don't know if they're new rules, or I don't know if they're custom-specific rules or not, but there's going to be things like patrol, which I don't know where patrol is actually introduced. But as far as this particular campaign, the new rules are notice, which is essentially just a self-balancing mechanic. You generally will as you do better and better in scenarios, you'll produce more and more notice, and the future scenarios will adapt to that and make it more difficult for you. So if you end up doing poorly, you usually don't generate as much notice. And then non-Euclidean, the way this works is, I believe it's only on locations, but the way it works is if you leave a location that has it's going to be hard to pronounce, non-Euclidean, my tongue is not working, non-things, you have to resolve each of them before you leave. So one of the examples that we're going to run into pretty early on is if it'll have non-Euclidean place one clue down. So every time you leave that location, you have to place a clue down on it. Note it is only when you leave the location, not when you enter it. And you can trigger the same effect multiple times if you happen to leave that location multiple times. So with all that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about our investigators. So the big one is going to be obviously the new one I'm trying to make work, which is Marion. But I will first talk about a character we've played before. But it has been a long time, it feels like. I believe Agnes Baker, at least according to my Arkham DB decks, my last Let's Play with Agnes was in the second run of Carcosa. So it has been quite some time since I last played her. Obviously, the what do you call this one? The Drowned City has introduced a lot of really good Mystic cards to play around with, so I look forward to seeing how she plays now. And I also look forward to seeing how she plays in one that's not Path of Carcosa, because Agnes is kind of ridiculous in Path of Carcosa. Anyway, we're already familiar with her. She's the waitress. Traits do matter. We do have specialist cards now. She is a sorcerer. She has 5 willpower, 2 intelligence, 2 combat, 3 fight, and anytime she takes 1 or more, anytime horror is placed on specifically Agnes Baker, as a reaction, you can deal a damage to an enemy at your location, limit once per phase. So the module was kind enough to provide these little tabs here that represent all the phases. So we have, also I need to actually move this. I forgot to do that. Alright, so pretty much these represent all of the phases. Red is Mythos, I guess green is Investigation, blue is Enemy, and then yellow is Upkeep. Which is good. That will make it a little bit easier to keep track of those things. Anyway, and then of course she has a 6/8 soak. I do have 2 copies of Arcane Research, so I will be starting with 2 mental trauma. Her Elder Sign effect is nothing too special, but it is, well, it is pretty much nothing special. It's a pass for the most part. We do have Down the Rabbit Hole and the Great Work, so we will be getting extra experience as well as being more focused towards upgrading existing cards. As for the deck itself, for those who don't know, she has 0 to 5 Mystic and 0 to 2 Survivor. Very straightforward splash. Her random weakness is Internal Injury, which is just a direct damage at the end of each of her turns. So this is pretty bad to draw into, but double action to get rid of is not too bad. All right, so as for the deck itself, I don't really remember too many details about the last time I played with her. I've definitely tweaked the deck every once in a while. The big things, obviously, we have Pete Sylvester to help with Soaking Horror in combination with Forbidden Knowledge, which goes great with her ability. It's a way of producing economy while doing damage, or you can always just place it on Pete Sylvester and just treat it as free money. We do have 1 Fearless, which we'll probably upgrade just for some horror healing in the future. We, of course, have the standard Shrivelings and Rite of Seekings. We do have, I don't know if we've I think it's possible the last time I played with Agnes, it might have been with Meat Cleavers, but I've long since switched over Sword Cane. Sword Canes has just been a lot more reliable, but also the Drowned City has introduced upgrades for Sword Cane. There's now level 2 Sword Cane, which is really, really good. So we'll be playing with that. We, of course, still have Uncaged Souls, Ward Protections, as well as Deny Existences. We, of course, have Arcane Initiates as well. They're going to be competed for the same slot as Pete Sylvester, but that's kind of okay at this point. We don't have too many skills, like I said. We have Fearless and a couple of Promise of Powers, just in case. We do have a Holy Rosary, just a single one. We do have Painkillers to help with healing damage if we need to. It can also trigger our ability, which is also helpful. We already talked about the Forbidden Knowledges. So the new things from Drowned City is we have Breath of the Sleeper and Eyes of the Dreamer. So these are kind of like a different form of like Wither and what was the other one called? Sixth Sense. So Breath of the Sleeper is the combat one. Has 9 charges, and you can fight with it, and you use your willpower instead of your combat. Costs 3 to get out, by the way, commits for combat. You can spend up to 3 charges to reveal additional tokens, and you can choose one of those reveal tokens to ignore the rest. So it's pretty much just like Eyes of the Dreamer. I believe we played with Eyes of the Dreamer with Agatha. So Breath of the Sleeper is the combat version. What's kind of neat about it is if you do get rid of a duplicate, you will get +2 damage, which is quite a boost. Unfortunately, just like with Eyes of the Dreamer, the only times I've triggered this is times where it didn't matter. So, but the other benefit, of course, it has 9 charges, which goes great with Spectral Shield, which we, of course, have. The other thing I will be dabbling with, which I haven't really messed with in the past, is Sign Magic. Ritual Talent costs 3 to get out, commits for a willpower, it's fast, takes up a hand slot, and while you have it equipped, you have an additional arcane slot which can be used for a spell or ritual asset. The body is but an extension of the mind. So base version of Sign Magic is not that great, but the upgraded version actually has a special ability where whenever you use an action ability on your spells, you can exhaust the upgraded form of Sign Magic to activate a different by name spell card, which originally I didn't have too many different spells in my decks originally, but now that there's Eyes of the Dreamer and Breath of the Sleeper, Sign Magic is a little bit more viable. All right, we already talked about Uncaged Soul. I don't have String of Curses this time around, but we do have the new card, which is Whispers of the Doom. Spell Cursed, 3-cost event, commits for a willpower and a combat. You do a parlay check, so it doesn't provoke. Choose a non-weakness enemy at your location. Test willpower 3. This test gets plus X difficulty, where X is the enemy's horror value. So this will usually be anywhere from 0 to 2. If you succeed, defeat that enemy, or deal it 3 damage instead if it is elite. If you fail, place 1 doom on that enemy. So it's expensive, but if you get it, it's a lot easier to use than String of Curses, because String of Curses usually have to have 2 of them out, or you're hunting down Cultist. I will say, most likely every time I play this, I'll probably draw the auto-fail, because that's what I expect. But it is what it is. That's also the nice thing about Breath of Sleep and Eyes of the Dreamer, is with my bad luck, I can at least, with 1 charge, and guarantee that I can ignore the auto-fail. Anyway, that's pretty much it. There are a few specialist cards that may be of interest for Agnes. We may dabble with them in the future, but for right now, a lot of our focus is just going to be upgrading our existing cards. Alright, so that is Agnes. So let's go talk about Marion. So, Marion the Trawler. She's a drifter entrepreneur, 2 willpower, 3 intelligence, 4 combat, 3 agility. You have 1 fewer hand slots, which I forgot to set. So according to the picture, it looks like she lost her right arm. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. So she has only 1 hand slot. As a reaction, after you play an event during your turn, draw 1 card. Then you may play a different event, limit once per round. This and then Elder Sign is +1, and if you even if you fail the check, you can search the top 3 cards of your deck for an event and draw it. Shuffle your deck. People rely on me to do my job. A few odd fish in the water don't change that. She has 8 health and 6 sanity. She does have In the Thick of It, and I'm going to be starting with 2 physical trauma. So, like I mentioned, I've been having some difficulty trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with her. She definitely kind of leans towards more being a flex in a lot of cases, because she does have that 3 book. She does have that 4 combat. She doesn't have 2 hands, so she's very limited on her asset options for the hand slots. And she's definitely leans towards being very, very event focused, which is nice because the last event guardian we have is Nathaniel Cho, who's very much focused on using spirit cards and using boxing gloves. Marion doesn't get to use boxing gloves, so she gets to focus on other things. But if you do want to focus her, it does seem to work. I have attempted to do both Thug and Cluever. Unfortunately, with Cluever, I did it in Path of Carcosa, and the second scenario kind of crushed her because the way you get clues on that one is not through the usual clueving means. And then for combat, I did attempt it on the first scenario for this one, which was okay. But unfortunately, every time I used her primary event cards, combat event cards, I kept drawing autofails. So this time around, I'm going to be trying to focus on clueving and seeing if I can make that work. All right. The ability, though, is really good, and the Elder Sign is also really good. There's a lot of neat combinations you can do with this. Obviously, the key thing is you can only activate this during her turn, but you can still chain it off of things that are not necessarily actions. You can chain it off of fast event cards. You can also chain it off things like Lucky, as long as you do it during your turn. A lot of neat tricks you can do with this is you can do something like scrounge for supplies to grab a level 0 event card from your discard, and then activate her ability, draw a card, and then immediately play that event you just got out of your graveyard. It's all really neat stuff. She can definitely generate a lot of resources. One of the openings I did was stand together, scrounge for supplies, then stand together again. So yeah, there's a lot of neat things. It's just, unfortunately, the biggest issue I've been running into her is just finding a partner to use with her that is not the usual ones. Obviously, I've been using Lily Chen and Zoe quite a bit, so I definitely didn't want to use the same ones over and over again. Anyway, let's talk about the back of the card. Deck size 30. At deck creation, you have to choose a trait, either Fortune, Gambit, or Improvised. Deck building options are Guardian 0 to 5, Neutral 0 to 5, Chosen Trait 0 to 2, and then up to 5 other level 0 survivor cards. She starts with 2 copies of Determined, I'll do it myself, and 1 copy of I'll do it myself, and then a random basic weakness. After her father died, Marion moved to Arkham from Narragansett Bay. She purchased a boat with her friend, Annalise Taylor, and the two found a new home among the city's fishing community. One stormy night at sea, Annalise was pulled overboard by a strange fish-like creature. Marion leapt into the water and pulled Annalise from the creature's jaws, costing Marion her right arm. Since then, she keeps a weather eye on the choppy waters of the Atlantic and the strange creatures that hide in its depths. So yeah, for this deck, I went with Fortune for the trait. All of them kind of have their interesting things. Improvise tends to just get you access to the few Survivor Improvise cards that there are. She does have the stats that kind of use all three of them, the Evade, Investigate, and Combat ones. So if you want to go like Flex, Improvise might be a thing to do. Gambit does get you access to Honed Instinct, and there might be a few other things that may stand out. But Fortune is generally the kind of the nice one. Fortune gets you access to it gets you access to Lucky, gets you access to there's that Rogue card that can get you a bunch of resources, I believe. I believe that's a Fortune card. I think it's Payday? No, I don't remember what it's called. I don't use it too often, unfortunately. But yeah, there's actually a number of Fortune cards that are kind of interesting, so I'll talk about those as I bring them up. Anyway, let's go ahead and go over our deck. So as mentioned, I do have it in the thick of it, so I'll be diving into the experience as well. So let's go over Determined. So she gets 2 of these in her deck. It's a innate skill, commits for a wild. If this skill test is successful and it was on an event you played, you may return Determined to your hand instead of discarding it. My experience with this is I generally just treated this as another skill card. Sometimes I can trigger it off of things. I do have a few options. I believe you can trigger it off of Task Force. You can trigger it off Sweeping Kick. You can trigger it off of Winging It. And obviously you can trigger it off Fortuitous Discovery. So there's a few things you can trigger it off of. It does have to be successful, so if you auto-fail, you lose it anyway. As for her weakness, I'll do it myself. It goes into your threat area. As an additional cost for you to play an event, you'll take a horror. As a lightning bolt, you discard 3 events from your hand, to discard it. So it's kind of nice that this is a lightning bolt effect. There's not too many weaknesses that do this. Usually it requires an action or a double action. Obviously, discarding 3 events from your hand can be kind of costly, but I do have a lot of events that are actually better in the discard pile, so it can be kind of to a benefit. That being said, it still sucks when you draw it. And then for our random weakness, we have a Tichophobia. After you fail a skill test, take 1 horror and then double action to get rid of it. So for this particular deck, it's not going to be too bad, I don't think. I do have a lot of ways to heal, so we'll see how that plays out. So as for the 3 experience we have, 2 of it is going towards Field Agent. I will definitely be picking up a second one in the future, but I believe we played with this with Carolyn Fern. But yeah, mainly it's for the +1 book, but the other benefit is that her ability to do a horror to herself to get a clue as a lightning bolt. I have some ways. I do have a few ways to help her heal, or at least get more horror soak to try to maximize how often I can use her. The remaining experience went towards Sweeping Kick. This is mostly just here, just in case I do need to deal with an enemy. She does have 4 combat, so I can always punch a rat in a pinch. But I definitely don't want to be fully relying on Marion to do any combat here. All right, so like I mentioned, we have Fortune as our chosen trait. Glimmer of Hope is Fortune, so these don't take... the key thing to note is anything that's Fortune does not count against our 5 level 0 Survivor cards. So, yeah, so we got Glimmer of Hope, which is a Fortune card. It's an event that costs 1, but can only be played from the discard pile. The main benefit is it does commit for a while, so you treat it as a skill card. And when you play it from your discard pile, you'll grab every copy of Glimmer of Hope from the discard pile and put it in your hand. So this thing's amazing. One is it acts as fodder for I'll do it myself. But the other thing is it's an event that you're playing during your turn, which means you can spin 1, put these back in your hand, draw a card, and then possibly play another event card right then and there. Let's see. Look What I Found are also Fortunes. Obviously, we want these to possibly get some additional clues because our book stat is not very good for a cluever, to be honest. We got Fortuitous Discovery, which is another Fortune card. I think this is the first time we've messed with this. It is Myriad, so we can have 3 of them, just like Glimmer of Hope. It costs X to play, commits for 0. But X is the number of other copies of Discovery in your discard pile. And what you do is you do an investigate. You get plus X book for this investigation. And if you succeed, you discover X additional clues at your location. So playing this with nothing in your discard essentially just means you're playing a card for 0 and doing a regular investigate. But in the case of Marion, I can trigger my ability off of this. So even if I don't have anything in the discard, I can play it for 0, do a regular investigate, draw a card, and possibly play another one. And obviously, once I start having them in the discard pile, they become much more usable. We have Keep Faith, which is also Fortune. It's 2 cost, fast, play during any lightning bolt window, adds 4 blesses to the chaos bag. These will generally get replaced pretty often, but it is the important thing to note about it is a fast card, which means I can play it for no actions, still trigger my ability, and then possibly play another event. Lucky, I already talked about. It's another Fortune card, and if I'm about to fail a skill test, I can play this, pass it, and then possibly chain my ability off of it. It pretty much turns all my Luckies into Lucky level 2s, essentially. Let's see, what other Fortunes we got in here. We got Scrounge for Supplies, which I mentioned earlier with the combo. You just go find a level 0 card, put in the discard, and put it in your hand, and then just go from there. We got Stand Togethers. Let's see. I think that's all the Fortune cards. Yeah, everything else is not a Fortune card. So, as for Survivor cards that are not Fortune, we have 2 Nautical Charts. I believe we played with this with Minty Fan. I feel like it goes pretty well with just having 1 hand slot. We can just put that in the hand slot and then possibly use this to help with tempo. And if we happen to have an extra 1 in our hand, we can always play it from our hand and also try to go off of that. Also, we have a lot of things that are worth discarding because they work better in the discard. So we can kind of work off that. Speaking of working off the discard, we do have 2 Winging Its. These are Tactic Improvised. We've played with it before. So that's, I believe I'm only using 4 of the 5 level 0 splash cards, unfortunately, but that's okay. I didn't really need anything else. Anyway, let's go ahead and go over our Guardian stuff. We already talked about Field Agents. Hallowed Mirror. I don't remember if we have actually played with this card. Usually a lot of my initial decks had this, and then I usually end up filtering them out. But for Marion, it's actually rather useful. 2 cost, 2 cost asset commits to a willpower. Once you play it, you grab 3 copies of Soothing Melody, put 1 in your hand, the other 2 get shuffled into your deck. Soothing Melody is a spell 0 cost event that commits for everything except for a combat. And it will, when you play it, it will heal 2 damage or 2 horror or any combination from among investigators and or ally assets at your location. Then you draw a card. So again, an event that I can trigger my ability off of to draw additional cards and activate again. But more importantly, this is a way to heal my ally. So it'll be a way to heal a field agent so they can keep doing their thing. So very helpful. All right. What else we got? We do have some Stand Togethers. Obviously, upgrading those to level 3 will be nice. And again, it's an event, so I can chain off of that. We already talked about Sweeping Kick. We do have Task Force. It's a double card, but it does play pretty well. So maybe we can go off of that. We do have a couple of Trusteds, which are also events. They can be played fast. You attach to an ally asset you control, and that ally asset gets +1 health, +1 sanity. So this is mostly here just to make field agents better, and that's about it. I would say if I were to grab another level 0 survivor card, it would probably be like Elaborate Distraction or something along those lines. The double card that kind of hits everything or evades everything. But honestly, I don't know what I would drop for it, because I kind of like what I have right now. Skill cards, we do have a couple of Perceptions, though those will probably get filtered out eventually. Oh, also we do have Inspiring Presence. That is another skill card. That's Guardian. Commits for everything except for an agility. It's innate. If this skill card is successful, you've read in an ally asset you control, and then you either heal 1 damage or 1 horror off of it. So again, not only will this heal the field agent, but it can also ready her again so she can immediately grab a clue. So very helpful. Also, it commits for a book, and right now I kind of need anything that can give me book at this point. All right, I think that is everything. So let's go ahead and dive into the introduction, and then we'll dive in, go from there. All right, so first of all, as always, I'm playing on easy difficulty. No taboo. And I generally only play female investigators for those who decided to start with this video for some reason. All right, easy difficulty does only have a -2, but I will say for the first scenario, skulls can potentially become -3s. All right, prologue, Saturday, November 12th, 1927, Arkham, Massachusetts. The various archaeological expeditions of Miskatonic University frequently captured the public's imagination for their theories taken to exotic lands and curiosities returned from the same. The ancient trophies were always certain to be exotic and interesting, but were often few and far between. Over the past 8 months, however, the university received generous funding from an entrepreneur named James Wycliffe to finance multiple expeditions throughout the globe. Each enterprise returned a success, improving the reputations of everyone involved and stocking the displays of the Miskatonic Museum with fresh exhibits. So highly anticipated was their most recent expedition to, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but I'm going to pronounce it as Mycenae, in Greece, that some of the university's more eager professors nearly canceled their classes for the day that the expedition was due back in Arkham. It was fortunate that they did not, as the expedition failed to appear. While you may have expected a delay due to bad weather or a shipwreck at very worst, what you didn't expect was the letter addressed to you personally from James Wycliffe himself. You didn't see a courier come or go, but the letter was waiting on your doormat first thing in the very next morning. Your unique services are urgently required. The reputations of myself and the Mycenae expedition are at stake, so this information cannot be made public and cannot involve the police. The expedition returned to Kingsport and sent its cargo upriver to Arkham, but nothing arrived at the university. Foul play is suspected. Search the Miskatonic riverfront for any evidence of the expedition cargo and identify the thieves if possible. Again, secrecy is paramount. Thank you and good luck, James Wycliffe. The vague manifest of the missing items and the generous cash advance, both included with the letter, only build on your suspicion. Why does Wycliffe suspect foul play? Why does he insist that such a high-profile mission be kept a secret? And why would he come to you specifically? Your experience with investigation usually dips into paranormal territory. If Wycliffe's expedition uncovers anything of this nature, then who could learn about it quickly enough to hijack it? The questions rack up, but you have no current course of action but to prepare for a busy evening. All right, and with that, we'll be diving into Scenario 1 next time. I am the Depressed Hero. This was Arkham Horror the card game. We're going to be doing Cyclopean Foundations, the custom campaign, with Agnes Baker and Marion Tavares. Agnes will be our lead investigator. And I'll see you guys next time.